ABC actually brings it home for a top 16, and talk about rogue options for this regional. Don't be like the 30% of you that have not smashed the living crap out of that subscribe button. Smash so you guys don't miss out on more awesome content while your breakdown for this regional. Holy cash money dollar bills, man. This deck has maintained a pretty strong hold on the format here, and it does look like you are seeing a little bit of a shift here in terms of things. We also had two Math Mechs. Okay, so Math Mech still kind of doing its thing out here, which is kind of nice. We had Scareclaw running it on home. I mean, Scareclaw innovations as of late have been quite nice for how the deck has developed. We also had Sprite out here. Okay, Sprite's still doing its thing, but, you know, like that ABC deck making top 16, Swordsoul Virtual World reemerges out of nowhere, winning the regional. Like, what? Where in the world did this come from here? That is quite an interesting breakdown. We're going to pass on over to the top deck list. There it is. This is how you win a regional. The right combination of Swordsoul cards and Virtual World cards to create a very unique synergistic option of option trees to actually just destroy your opponent, which I think is really cool. Of course, shout out here to Dark Ruler No More. Dark Ruler No More still being one of those cards that your opponent's just going to look at you when it comes down, and they're going to be like, what am I supposed to do about that? Unfortunately, there isn't really much that you can do, because this deck has, I mean, nobody's really playing around the Chuche right now. Let's call it what it is. You have plenty of hand trap options down here. You even board in Royal Decree as well to devastate the opponent. I mean, Tzolk'in setting up Yield Crystal Wing after you've done like full Swordsoul combo is actually kind of hilarious. So you wouldn't think that this deck has a good chance of working, because the previous versions proved to us a lot of bricks. But I think that this was what you really expect. Next up here we have Kashtira Punk. What is with these weird, the Kashtira Punk hybrid has been something that we have seen for a little while. Basically, the Punk package gives this deck, you know, the extreme jam session power draws, which, once again, you know, and you can set up Psychic End Punisher here. I still stand by what I say, alright? Decks don't have outs right now to Psychic End Punisher. Usually when this card comes down, it's going to put your opponent in a very stressful situation, which will probably get you the win, usually. And then, of course, I mean, you have the rest of everything else that you can do down here. Obviously, being able to set up, you know, a Rise Heart here is pretty good at the end of the day. Keep in mind that we're not even opting for Shangri-Eras. The deck doesn't even look like it needs it. So, standard combo lines of Synchro play, and then you get the ability just to hard make the Rise Heart here, and then you just laugh all the way to the bank. Also, you know, Soldier of Chaos, another one of those fantastic power cards. Math Mech, the oldest bridge gap here for this deck, has been seeing a lot more play as of late. I think we did see this dip off for Math Mech builds, but it has definitely kind of come back as of late. Being able to have a spell and trap pop that you can bridge the gap for is really, really good. Now, the interesting thing is this build just opted for 2 Small World. Most of the time, people wanted to have the third. Maybe they just opted to not include it because not having it or so forth. But the build did function on 2, which is pretty important. We have Book of Eclipses for defensive options. And honestly, your hand trap lineup, I think, is going to be the biggest things here that's going to get you some free wins. And I see that we are relying on good old Psy-Frame defensive options as well. Outside of that, looks very, very strong. Next up is, hi Gamma. Yes, the Kashtira goes second to laugh at your opponent build, as you're featuring off Lightning Storms. You have Feather Duster in here. Anything that your opponent could set up, you're probably going to be able to break with relative ease. And I do mean that. Like, this deck has a very strong time at just making the opponent not enjoy playing the game. We are opting for the 1 Ogre, the 2 Rise Hearts, which is fine. Only 1 Diabolsis. We are playing the Goliath in here, so that when you do the Pot of Prosperity filter, you can go ahead and just scoop this on up. Congratulations, your Rice Heart's literally in indestructible mode. And then we've opted for both fossils here. So if your opponent is doing something or whatnot, you can go ahead and just toggle this on under your guy, and you're kind of off to the resource race, so you can do your thing. Outside of that, yeah, feels pretty standard, honestly. Next up is Scareclaw. Now, the thing that has continued to allow this deck any chance in the meta has been the fact that the adventure package has been the most solid base for this deck. And I do mean when I say this, like, without the adventure package, pre-Vicious Stroud, or Vicious Stroud, it does hurt. We do have Vicious Stroud coming, which will open up, you know, the Hero Lives Prisma package, which does give this deck, a lot more combo lines. Trust me when I say this, this deck's going to be an entirely different creature when you get to see how that is going to play out. Outside of that, I mean, you're just temporarily playing the one Vicious Starfrost. I think that will change post-upcoming release. And then, of course, your side deck is very, very geared towards hate. And then we're just opting for the 2 talents here. I haven't played Thrust or anything to be able to toggle into the evenly, so it works out at the end of the day. Next up here is another Kashtira deck, but we're actually playing Saravis. Just when your opponent would special summon a monster quick effect, blah, blah, blah. We don't care about that. It's just when your opponent activates a card effect that targets a monster you control quick effect, and discard this card to negate that activation. This is just targeting protection for you. You don't even have a real way to summon this. It's just, hey, your Kashtira monster's trying to bully mine? Alright, let's go ahead and Saravis negate it. And it just is meant to give you an edge over in the mirror match. I also see, once again, we got the Nightmare Corruptor Iblis down here. From a lot of the previous lists that you've seen, Lingaribo has been falling off. This little guy right here, yeah, people have been opting to just cut it. Alright, they feel that their Kashtira matchup isn't going to be that strong. And then out of left field, all of a sudden you're like, oh, I just lost because of that. This is one of the strong opportunities for Kashtira to actually take advantage of that. Next up is our Math Mech deck with Scareclaw. Oh, well, hi Santa Claus. How are you, buddy? I'm really glad to see that you're doing good. We are actually playing Lady Debug as well. I have not seen Lady Debug in any Math Mech deck yet. This is actually kind of saucy. I actually kind of like that. We are playing the backup secretary as well. And then I see, I mean, obviously because you're playing this, the backup secretary is pretty much an auto-include. Outside of that, I mean, we have the Santa Claus for a defensive option. Once again, 2 small worlds. Wow. Most of these Math Mech players for this event just chose to strip out a lot of what they kind of had going for them as I would consider good potential for these decks, and they just opted to not even feel like they needed them anymore. That's kind of interesting to see a small world cutback for both players. Okay. Sprite! Hey, look, it is the Melfi package. You should be no strangers to seeing how these little guys have turned innovation on its head as we continue to showcase, you know, 2 little Melfis included in your deck gives this deck so much more room. I see that we have opted for the Gamma Burst. Once again, Smashers being cut out of a lot of these Sprite decks as of late. Smashers, if it was seeing play, I think I've seen it mostly in the side, but the Gamma Burst OTK allows this deck to close a lot of games very quickly, and it's not like you don't have Double Cross anyway as a defensive option if you really need it, you know? I see that we are opting for books and talents as well. And of course, I mean, you have Gammas in here. And we have another build here that did opt for the Nightmare Corruptor Iblis. Hey, you know, if your opponent's not actually playing around it, it's just kind of free real estate for you, right? You may as well take your free wins where you can get them. So that wraps up your top 8 here. 14th place is our ABC Innovation. I remember reading from the Duelist. It said, shout out to tributing my ABC Buster Dragon for a Gamma COI had Kyoto Waterfront up and running. Yeah, that's it's actually quite hilarious. I see that we are doing double Regulus, which is fine. Just the 1 Union Driver. The rest of this main deck feels incredibly standard. Dragon Ravine with the Destrudos, very, very good. And then, of course, the huge power lot here for the anti-stuff. And, of course, Ancient Fairy Dragon being the card that has allowed this particular build to showcase its power as of late. So, What do you think about this breakdown? Please leave a comment down below, tell me what you guys think, and I'll see your beautiful faces back here later in the day, guys. Peace out. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.